This is my wife's 2003 Volkswagen Beetle with a 2-liter engine in it. I'm going to show you how to put rear brake pads on it. First of all, I don't know if you know, but Volkswagens, they don't have lug nuts. They've got bolts to hold the wheel on. Of course, I've got everything apart, and I've got the rotors up at O'Reilly's. They're turning the rotors for me tonight. Thought I'd run through it though and show you how to take it apart and replace everything. But anyway, if you got the style wheel like this one does, it's got this black plastic cap. The easiest way to get it off is stick a 90-degree pick in there, pull that cap off, and then here's one of the bolts. And then this is pretty handy. You know, if you got studs and lug nuts, the wheel will just sit there. But on this, if you take all the bolts out, the wheel's just going to fall off. So I made me some guide studs for taking the wheels on and off. You can buy these from the tool man. They were like $50, and I went to the bolt store and bought 2 of them for about $4 or $5. It is a 14mm bolt. It's 100 millimeters long, and it's 1.5 thread pitch. So you can just cut the head of the bolt off. I cut some slots in it just in case it gets stuck in there. So that's kind of handy. I've got this just setting in place. Of course, like I said, the rotor would be on there. And the first thing you might do is, if I can find it, right here. There's one Phillips screw that goes through the rotor that holds the rotor on, and it wasn't very tight at all on either side. So take that screw out while you still got a little drag on the brake pads and the rotor. I'd take it out first thing so you don't have to fight this turning on you. And then the next thing you need to do, on each side there's the parking brake cable, which of course goes to the caliper on these. Clips on to these kind of a serrated threaded stud right here, and had a lot of trouble getting them off because they just push on, and they've got, the way they're made, they're real hard to get off. You just have to get a screwdriver in there and pry down on it. There's no nuts or anything on it. I finally, after I got a little bit of gap in there, I used this upholstery tool, and I could get in there and kind of work it down and pry it off in clips. And then under the car there's 2 kind of wire clips that just hold it up, and unfasten them. That way you've got some slack in your parking brake cable when you go to take the caliper off. Alright, and then the caliper's held on with 2 bolts. Oh, another thing, first of all, you might do is the bleeder screw. Of course, there's a rubber cap that I took off. I believe it's an 11mm wrench. You might break those loose while everything is still mounted. So break them loose, snug them back up. You'll need to open them here in a minute, and I'll show you that. So then there's 2 bolts to hold the caliper on. I've just barely got this one hanging on here. And they're a 13mm bolt, and when you go to unscrew that, you're going to have to, in the sliding pin right here, you're going to have to put a wrench on it, and it's a 15mm, I believe. You have to put a wrench on that, or when you're loosening the bolt, this is just going to spin, so you'll have to hold that while you take that bolt out. And then, like I said, now I've got slack in the parking brake cable. You can pry the caliper kind of back there out of your way. You've barely got enough slack in the brake hose. Kind of get it out of the way. And to get the rotor off, if you're going to turn rotors, which I always do, I would suggest that you turn them. If you just put pads on it, you're likely to have noise and possibly vibration, squealing. So I always turn them, get some fresh metal on the rotor. And to get it off, you're going to have to take the caliper bracket off, caliper mount, and it is an 8mm. There's 2 of them back here. It's an 8mm Allen bit socket, and they were really tight. I used my long handle 3/8 drive ratchet to bust them loose. This is a snap-on. I've seen the cheaper tools, even Craftsman, they just tend to round out the Allen bolts, so you might keep that in mind because they were pretty tight. and I've got those snugged up so I can't take it off. But anyway, there's 2 bolts. This comes off, and then you can take the rotor off and go have it turned. And also, when I'm doing a brake job, any brake job, I like to pull these slide pins out. Even though this slides freely and you can see some grease on it right there, always take them out, kind of wipe them off, re-grease them. They make special caliper pins, pin slide grease, and lube them up, put them back on, because if those don't move in and out, you're going to wear the inner or outer pad more than the other, and they won't wear even. Now let's go to the other side. These, since they have the parking brake cable going to the caliper, you can't just push the caliper in like you do on a normal disc brake. That's what you normally just push it in. You have to rotate it in. Well, let me go back and show you. Sorry. You can see better on this side. There's the piston. You see the 2 notches. That tool on the other side looks similar to this on the end. It's got those pins. You can rent this tool at O'Reilly's and AutoZone, I believe. The one I have is a Mac tool. But anyway, what you will do is, and I've already got both pistons pushed in, get the tool that matches that piston, and the pins will fit in that groove, and then put this plate in here, and then this threaded bolt fits in this. So you turn this and that rotates that piston as it pushes. It has to do both to get that piston pushed back in. You can't push it straight in, and you can't just rotate it either. You have to turn it and push it in. So what you'll do is get this in here, just get this piece kind of snug. The other side I did it first and I didn't have any trouble, but I must have had this too tight to start with or something, because when I went to turn this, it was just kind of jammed up. So I backed this off a little bit. But what you'll have to do is as you tighten the bolt, you'll have to kind of turn this counterclockwise at the same time, or this will loosen up on you. So you kind of have to do both. And I temporarily bolted the caliper bracket back on so that would kind of set in there, and it wouldn't just be flopping around out in the air so bad. Kind of, you know, if you've got a helper, they could hold it. But anyway, like I said, you need to rotate that in and push at the same time, and they're both in. And before you start rotating and pushing it in, I would I've got this bottle I made with a hose, and it fits right on the bleeder screw. So crack your bleeder open about a half a turn, so while you're pushing that piston in, it'll just push the fluid into the bottle. I have heard, I haven't had any trouble, but I have heard that if you just push the old dirty fluid backwards through the ABS system, you could cause some dirt in some of the ABS valves, which makes sense. And this is really easier. It's once you've opened that bleeder, you have less pressure to push against. It's just pushing it out into that bottle. So open that up as you're pushing that in. That's all I can think of. When you're, of course, the brake pads. Here's the old ones, but the new ones are in the box on the workbench. Of course, they set in here. You'll see them. They set in that caliper bracket on each side of the rotor. These were pretty thin. I got them just in time. Let me find the worst one. Now this is the worst one. It was starting to wear right there. I'd rotated the tires about 3 weeks ago, and I keep an eye on them when I rotate the tires, and I knew they were getting pretty thin, but I caught these just in time. So when you go back together, the wheel bolts torqued to 87 foot-pounds. And that's all I can think of, and have fun with that, and thanks for watching.